these in case you get dry. You're not dry.
Good evening. Welcome to the March Smyrna Board of Zoning Appeals. We have a large agenda tonight and a packed house, so we'll try to get through these as expeditiously as possible. For those of you that once we go through your item, if you would like to leave, you're more than welcome to leave. I ask you to do that quietly because we'll continue on, but you don't have to stay for the entire meeting if you're done. So for now, we'll like to call the meeting to order, and we'll start off with prayer and Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us for prayer.
Strength. Heavenly Father, thank you for our town and our leadership, Father. Thank you for protection over our citizens, and we just pray that you guide us during this meeting, Father, to make decisions that are best for our town and our future. And we just thank you for your continued protection over the town of Smyrna. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Face the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, fellas. Before we go to citizen comments, I would like to welcome the members of the board. Thank you for your willingness to serve and being here. We appreciate that. Citizens' comments, Mitch? None at this time. We'd like to go to the next item on the agenda is approval or correction of the minutes from February 21st. Since we did not have a quorum, the meeting minutes are pretty easy to approve. So there pretty much are none. So I guess we go through the approval of not having a quorum. What do we do? Yeah.
The minutes that acknowledged.
Okay.
They should be in your packet.
Yep, they are.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as they are, although there's not much there.
We'll second that.
Yeah. All right, got a second. All those in favor of the approval say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved. We've got quite a few items. We have one item from old business, which is the sign variance request that's carried over from February. I guess we'll start there, Mitch.
Yeah, this is a setback variance of 16 feet for a ground sign at the entrance to a subdivision. The required setbacks on corner lots for subdivision entry signs is normally 75 feet from the center point of the intersection. This setback of 16 feet would make for a setback of 59 feet from the center point of the intersection for this proposed ground sign to go. The applicant has listed the following hardships as the basis for this request, as the site constraints between the proposed sign and existing utilities both above and below ground, and the ground plane due to current zoning requirements for signs to be located 75 feet from the intersection. Regardless of what zone a particular subdivision is located in, it's always a strict 75 feet distance from the middle of the center point of the intersection is required per the ordinance. Also, just like I said, the imbalance of the nature of the zoning ordinance as it pertains to the sign placement requirements for all sites based on static 75 feet distance requirement. This is a requirement from AASHTO, American Association of State Highway Transportation Official Standards. There's a requirement they come up with based on safety, and it goes really deep into deciding distances for different streets as far as width or speed's concerned, but for our purposes we've kept it at 75 feet forever, and it hasn't changed due to these rigorous requirements and needings to go through in order to find a different setback requirement for a sign at each location. For an action granting a variance, board shall state the provisions being varied and shall grant the minimum variance to satisfy the relief of hardship and shall state the specific hardship which justifies the variance. The board shall not grant a variance unless it makes findings based upon evidence presented as follows. A, the particular surroundings, shape, or topographic conditions of the specific property involved would result in exceptional hardship upon the owner as distinguished from an inconvenience. The area where the sign would be located regardless of a variance being granted is relatively level. There's a drainage easement along the property. A portion of the property is lower than the proposed sign location, and there's also a large storm pipe across the property. However, none of these hardships would none of these hardships would affect the ability of the location of the sign to meet the required 75 feet back from the center of the intersection. B, the conditions upon which the petition for a variance is based should not be applicable to other similar situated properties. Sign ordinance requires setback of 75 feet from the center point of an intersection for any sign on any corner lot. In this instance, the right-of-ways are narrower than on many corner lots. C, the hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property. Applicant's client is the developer of the subdivision in which the subdivision sign is to be placed. D, financial return shall not be considered as a basis for granting the variance. Property owner has not identified financial returns as a reason for requesting the variance, though marketing the development is one of the reasons stated for needing this subdivision sign. E, the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare, interest to other property, or the intent and spirit of the ordinance. The variance would not have any of these above effects, as the AASHTO standards will be met with the 75 feet. F, the variance would not confer upon a special privilege to the applicant that is denied to others. Staff finds the approval of the variance may confer a special privilege on the applicant, since the challenges of the lot stated under section A are not unique, and challenges stated under B are somewhat unique, referring to the shape of the lot. Staff would recommend denial of this request due to no particular hardship with the property and was not self-created. The ordinance requirement 75 feet is more pronounced in a situation such as this due to the narrow right-of-way in this area, but other than that, staff sees no particular hardship present. The applicant suggests amending the sign ordinance to address this as well, and staff is supportive of investigating that possibility as a way to address this issue. And that is all I have for this request. I got 2 pictures of the site as well. This is the proposed corner lot in which the sign is requested to be placed at, and here you can see the drainage ditch right here, as well as above ground utilities. I believe if the sign were replaced in that 75-foot requirement, it would be placed back here by the above ground utilities if it were carried out with that 75 feet requirement. And that is all we have.
Okay, thank you, Mitch. I do have a couple questions based on what you read before we go to the public hearing. In your, let me find it, item E, you said the variance would not have effects, the AASHTO standards would be met. Would they be met with the variance or only without the variance?
Without the, well, it would be met without the variance being.
If the variance was granted, would it still be met or no?
That's one of those things because they got that, we didn't take a deep look into what would be required on a road like this. Mm-hmm. Each situation varies based on their requirements, so it could be closer if the ordinance was in effect, or if the variance was granted to them. We don't know exactly where which could be placed based on their requirements.
But we could dig into that if we needed to.
If we needed to, we could look into it. Okay,
and then the other question that I didn't quite understand, the hardships not being created by the person, item C. Yeah. So the one item to me that may or may not be considered a hardship is the electrical box. Mm-hmm. Can you explain to me a little bit about how how the decision gets made of where those go?
The utility boxes?
Yeah. Is that a Middle Tennessee Electric decision? Is that a design decision by the developer? How does that get placed?
Honestly, I have no idea on that question. I don't know how those get determined as far as from a utility standpoint. The applicant is here and he can speak on that.
All right, when we open the public hearing, we'll ask him that question then.
But
okay.
Honestly, I have no idea how those get placed.
Okay. All right. That's the only 2 just clarifying points I wanted. At this time, I'll close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open a public hearing for anybody who'd like to speak for or against. Please state your name and address.
Matt Taylor of SEC, 850 Middle Tennessee Boulevard, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and I represent Parks Development on the project. To answer your first question about AASHTO, yes, we would still be outside the site triangles. I think with our application, we provided a couple of exhibits showing those site triangles and how the sign would still be outside of that. Then the self-creation, we basically provide our subdivision plans to Middle Tennessee Electric, and they decide where such features like the transformers and vaults and the conduit go. And so we tell them, hey, here's our layout, here's our lot lines, here's our other utilities such as water and sewer, which we can control. And so Middle Tennessee Electric dictates those.
Okay. Could you speak a little bit about, I guess based on this picture we have on the board here, where the sign would be? I've seen in the drawings, it looks like it would be right behind it if you didn't have the variance, but could you talk about where you're wanting to place it with the variance?
Yes, sir. Let me, so we want to be kind of in this general area right here. On the exhibits, you can kind of see the very top of the drainage ditch, which is right in here, and we want to be in this neighborhood. So we're still, I would say, roughly 40 feet off of the center line of Seven Oaks Boulevard.
Understand. And with the ordinance, it would be directly behind that transformer, essentially?
Yeah, it would be back in here.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add? No?
No, sir.
Any
Unless you have
questions? Anybody have any questions before we reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals?
Who originally idea was it to put the box there? Was that y'all's or Middle Tennessee Electric?
The transformer?
Yes, sir.
So that's Middle Tennessee Electric. We gave them our subdivision plan, showing them where the roads and the other utilities, and Middle Tennessee Electric tells the contractor where to put that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak for or against? Not seeing anyone, we'll close the Board of Zoning Appeals, I'm sorry, the public hearing, and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm trying to get out of here early. Reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals for any discussion from the board. The staff recommendation is denial, and I understand that perspective. I guess my question is, it seems like if Middle Tennessee Electric placed the box there, putting the sign right behind it kind of blocks part of the sign. To me, that seems like a hardship that the developer didn't create. And that's kind of where my thought process is going. I just don't know if either one of you want to say anything different about it. I don't know if Jeff, as the Middle Tennessee Electric placement of that box, could be considered a hardship or not. I mean, it's not created by them directly, even though the design, it's very possible that he could have reviewed the design and had it moved before it was put in place if he was considering a sign placement at that time. But I can also see that once it's there, it's there.
I think it's, I mean, don't know if give you an answer, but it's up to this body. I think it's of how you see it.
Right.
And if Middle Tennessee Electric created the issue, which was outside of the scope of the, where they were able to place it, then I would say that, yeah, it wouldn't be their fault as far as I.
Okay.
And it's been mentioned that this AASHTO standard, actually, this is within that, that's correct?
Yeah, it would still be met.
It would still be met, so this is more of it's an appearance of being behind that box versus in front.
Yeah, it's an
But
aesthetic
I
issue.
don't see anything here that says there's any type of public hazard or problem with it coming in front. It's simply just, we're 75 feet is the current ordinance right now.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess, any more comments, either one of the other guys before I speak up here? So based on that, I think I'll make a motion and then we'll go from there. My motion is that we approve this request with the understanding that AASHTO would still, they would still be within those standards. And Mitch, I would like for you guys to validate or verify that. So as long as the AASHTO standards are still met, then I would motion that we approve the request.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, so the motion carries. Thank you, sir. Jeff, I would like to also suggest that maybe we do look at that ordinance, take it back to Brian, and 75 feet at a 2-lane intersection is a lot different than 75 feet at a 4-lane intersection. And so you could, and we could, because of that ordinance, be telling some developments that they can have their sign right on the edge of the road, and other developments they've got to be 45 feet back. And so maybe, I'm sure there was some good logic when we made up that ordinance, but we might want to look at seeing what other cities are doing and see if there's some other way that we can word that so we don't have this kind of situation with small intersections going forward.
Sure, and I'll talk to the town planner as well.
Okay. All right, now we'll move on. Next item on the business is, on the agenda is new business. We've got several setback variances, special exceptions, and some temporary use permits. The first item is Roy Alsop and Scott Alsop, 106 McNichol Drive for setback variance.
Right, this is a setback variance request on the side of 11 feet 3 inches for an attached carport that is encroaching on the neighbor's property. Total of 3 foot 9 inch away from the estimated property line. Property is zoned R1 low density residential and is approximately 0.49 acres in size. Minimum yard requirements in an R1 district is side setback of 15 feet. This attached carport has been grandfathered in, which is why it's previously been closer, and we believe this is due to it being constructed before the ordinance side setbacks requirements were put in place. Currently, this carport sits approximately 5 feet away from the side property line. Applicant stated the reason they installed the footers closer to the property line was due to an existing wall that was not suitable for the footers. Codes inspected the property prior to the applicant pouring the new footings and instructed them that the existing wall would need to be reinforced from below to support these new posts. Additionally, the applicant was aware that footers could not be placed any closer to the property line than that wall was already existing. Footers were then poured closer to the property line than allowed and were not placed in the space codes instruct them they had to be poured at to meet the requirement. Zoning variance requirements, section 7.080 of the municipal zoning ordinance lists general requirements for a zoning variance request, and they are detailed below. B, standards for variances not involving special flood hazard areas. Board shall not grant a variance unless it makes findings based upon the evidence presented as it follows. 1, the particular physical surroundings, shape, topographic conditions of the specific property involved that would result in a particular hardship upon the owner as distinguished from mere inconvenience. Staff finds that this lot is uniformly shaped. 2, conditions upon the petition for a variance is based would not be applicable generally to other property within the same district. Staff finds the post could have been supported by the existing wall or that the applicant could have replaced the existing wall to support the structure and still have it be within the appropriate setback. 3, the variance will not authorize activity in a zone district other than those permitted by this ordinance. Attached carports are allowed in the R1 districts but are to normally adhere to all setbacks. 4, financial returns shall not be considered as a basis for granting the variance. The property owner has not identified financial returns as a reason for requesting this variance. 5, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in this property after the effective date of this ordinance. These posts were installed by the applicant after they were informed that they could not be installed any closer to the property line than they were. 6, that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privileges that is denied by this ordinance to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. Staff finds that the variance requested will provide the applicant with special privileges denied by the ordinance to other lands in the R1 district due to the lack of hardship. 7, the variance is the minimum that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Staff finds that this is not the minimum to make reasonable use of the structure for the proposed use, as it was, there was an existing wall there prior to the new footings. 8, the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property or improvements in the area. Staff finds this variance will not have any of the above effects. 9, the proposed variance will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property, substantially increase the congestion in the public streets, increase danger of fire, endanger the public safety, or substantially diminish or impair property values within the area. Staff finds it should not have any of these above effects as well. 10 is not applicable in this case. And staff would recommend denial of this request due to there not being any particular hardships and the fact that they were aware of the footer placements prior to pouring the footers too close to the property lines and then requesting the variance. A couple of pictures. This is just from the road showing where the new footers are placed. This is the existing wall where it was before. That code's instructed then should have been reinforced or could have been redone to support them, and this is where the footers were installed at. That is it.
Okay. At this time, we'll close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak for or against this request. Sir, if you could state your name and address, please.
Thank you. I'm Scott Alsop. I live at 118 Young Drive. My father is Roy Alsop. He's currently, he got a whole lot. He's 85 years old, so I'm speaking on his behalf.
Okay.
The old carport was just a flat shed carport. It was built in 1965, I believe, on that existing wall. And of course, as you see, that wall's been there close to the neighbor's yard this whole, ever since we lived there. That's where I grew up. And we tore the old one down to build a new carport. And it's just a misunderstanding. Andy's home repair, so he's doing the work. And when codes told us to pour new footers, we didn't realize it was supposed to be underneath the old crumbling, you know. We never understood to tear that down, I guess. Now, as we went back, we was told to pour it underneath to help it. But in some of the pictures I sent before too, that wall is just, it could not hold the existing carport we got now. And so my contractor, he poured it 15 inches more toward our neighbor's yard. And that's basically it. We're just asking for that 15-inch variance tonight. So thank you all for your time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Alsop? Nope. All right, thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak for or against? Not seeing any, we'll close the public hearing, reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals for discussion. In your packet, there is a picture. It keeps turning on my iPad. Looks like most of the roof is done. It looks like they're pretty much to the point of adding gutters and trim, and that's about it.
Yeah.
It's a tough spot.
Steve, that maybe was does that help?
Yeah, there you go. So you can see the roof line and what's going on there. Did we hear from any of the neighbors on this?
We just had 2 calls on this, just saying that they were okay with the request. They had no issues with it being closer to the property line.
I was wondering how that came up. You know, it's 15 inches. Did someone call about it?
I think it sounds from what I read was that Mr. Reinhardt went back out for final inspection or for the next follow-up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it sounds like there's, what Mr. Alsop's saying is a misunderstanding between Mr. Reinhardt and I guess the builder. Is the direction or the communication from Mr. Reinhardt documented anywhere? Do you know?
And we have his notes on a site plan submitted to codes for their request, which is actually in your packet as well. He's got comments in there on that page. And this was stated to the applicant prior to them pouring footings.
Yeah, so the statements that we're reading is it's okay to permit as long as it does not encroach closer to the right side than the existing carport. And that's the notes that are on the site plan for approval.
That's the problem with this particular one, is that it's so clear that it was not supposed to be any closer than the 5 feet that are already been grandfathered in, correct?
Yep. All right, more discussion? Questions?
I wish it weren't this far along, you know, before this came up.
Yes, yeah. It's already attached to a house. It's just ready for actually gutters and siding.
And I guess whoever's doing the work, they know what's happening, that we're having this issue?
Yes, they understand that we're.
Have they said anything to you about making amends on it or being able to make any type of movement or anything to get it within what the code is, or?
No.
Okay.
It would have to be torn down and then brought in for all the joists and all the LVLs and stuff.
All right, anything? All right, to me, this is unfortunately black and white. I don't see a hardship. I don't see any reason to grant it, and my concern is the precedent. It's a mistake. It sucks that it's this far, but if we grant this precedent, the next person that comes in and wants 15 more inches, what leg do we have to stand on it?
And it's already been grandfathered in is the problem.
If we hadn't honestly, if I didn't have these notes that seem pretty clear, then I would have probably said maybe Mr. Reinhardt didn't communicate clearly. But in this case, it's pretty clear. So at this point, I'll make a motion that we deny the request. I don't see a hardship to grant it.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Anyone? Nope. All those in favor of denying the request? Aye. Any opposed? No. The request is denied. Sorry about that, Mr. Alsop. I wish we could help you.
I'm too. It's just based on that code.
All right. Next item on the agenda, we have Brady Steele and Nick Capps, 401 Clearview Drive, which is setback variance.
Yep. The applicant has requested a front setback variance of 35 feet for a fence to be placed in the front yard. The property is zoned R1, low density residential, and it's approximately 0.36 acres in size. Minimum yard requirements in R1 zone for front setback of any structure, of the structures are 35 feet. This also applies to fences as well. Applicant stated the reason they installed the fence was for their 17-month-old son with special needs as an area for him to enjoy the outside, and were not aware that there was a setback regulation for fences until after it was installed. Section 7.080D of the zoning ordinance detail the requirements for variances not involving special flood hazard areas, and they are as follows. B, the board shall not grant a variance unless it makes findings based upon evidence presented as it follows. 1, the particular physical surroundings, shape, topographic conditions of the specific property involved that would result in a particular hardship upon the owner as distinguished from mere inconvenience. If the strict application of this ordinance were carried out, must be stated. Staff finds property has a relatively uniform shaped lot except for a narrower rear lot. This is due to the house being set back an additional 28 feet beyond the 35-foot front setback. 2, the conditions upon which the petition for a variance is based would not be applicable generally to other property within the same district. Staff finds that this lot is relatively uniform in shape and ample space is available in the front yard for a fence to be installed while still meeting the minimum setback requirements. 3, the variance will not authorize activities in a zone district other than those permitted by this ordinance. Fences are allowed in the R1 district by right, but are not to encroach upon any further than the front setback line. 4, financial returns shall not be considered as a basis. Property owners have not identified financial returns as a reason for requesting this variance. 5, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property after the effective date of this ordinance. The creation and size of the lot and house were not completed by the applicant. 6, that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this ordinance to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. Staff finds that the variance requested will provide the applicant with special privileges denied by the ordinance to other lands, structures, or buildings in the R1 district due to the lack of hardship present. 7, the variance is the minimum that will make possible the reasonable use of land, structure, or building. Staff finds the requested setback variance is not the minimum to make reasonable use of the structure for the proposed use. 8, the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to public welfare or injurious to other property or improvements in the area in which it is located. Staff finds the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property or improvements in the area. 9, proposed variance will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent properties, substantially increase congestion in the public streets, increase danger of fire, endanger public safety, or substantially diminish or impair property values within the area. Staff finds that having a fence in the front yard across the driveway with a fence may create a hazard for response vehicles in case of an emergency as far as fire is concerned or any kind of other emergency response. 10 is not applicable in this case. Staff finds that there is no particular hardship for this request. The fence can be pushed back to the minimum required 35 feet setback and still be roughly 28 to 29 feet of enclosed front yard space from the front of the house to the fence line. Emergency vehicles may need access to the lot or house if an emergency arose, whether it be for fire or utility purposes, and the fence provides an obstruction to their response time or ability to perform a job safely and adequately. The lot does have an odd-shaped rear yard, but is not significant enough to be warranted as a hardship for the placement of a fence in the front yard beyond the front setback line. Staff would recommend denial of this request due to the aforementioned reasons. And then here is the first picture of the front yard. That fence goes all the way up to the front. And then just the other side of it, looking. Neighbor's property is right here, and you got the fence in the front yard. In your packets, there's another picture. Beyond that last page I read, that details where the 35-foot front setback approximately would be located. And that would show if the fence were placed there, they would still have an additional 28 to 29 feet for a front yard space if the fence were installed at that 35-foot front setback. We want this known that this is not saying they have to tear the fence down and remove it completely from the front yard. We're saying that they still have adequate space to have that fence in the front yard and still meet the setback requirements.
How far is the fence from the road in this picture, do you know?
I don't have an accurate
I
measurement.
didn't see that in,
In the picture, you can see roughly where it's placed, but I don't have an exact measurement of that.
how much is the variance request?
It's full 35 foot. That fence is built up to the property line.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, at this time, I will close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak for or against this request. Please state your name and address.
Say hi, I'm Brandy Steele, 401 Clearview Drive. We just bought the house in April. It'll be a year. We honestly had no idea. Like, this is our first home. We had no idea about city ordinance, nothing. This is my son's bus driver, and she gets her big old bus in my driveway with the fence and all every single morning. So it's definitely wide enough for emergency vehicles. The deal is he's got a service dog too. So there's no backyard whatsoever, and we did put a privacy fence up so we could let his service dog out. I mean, it's not big at all, and it's not where, you know, he would have, it's not even about him having room to play. It's, I mean, there's a dog back there, so it's covered in poop, you know. It's not like he can go back there and play, but it's more of safety issues. I mean, I guess we could take it back, but the 35 foot takes us right up to those trees, and I mean, really honestly, for $4,000, it's, I mean, it's small, because we even thought about it. We're like, let's just not even, we'll take it down. And then he's like, we got to fight, you know, because he's a runner. He's nonverbal. He doesn't follow command. He don't know, like, even me, as in mama or daddy. Like, he don't comprehend nothing. And 2 weeks ago, we had to replace our front window because he busted it out with his head because he's obsessed with outside. That's our problem. Like, he is obsessed. We've done everything under the sun as far as we can do as safety knobs. We're like having to gate off our windows, but that's the first thing. He's a runner. It don't matter if we're home or where we're at. He's a runner, period. Mm-hmm. We got every single one of our neighbors to sign. We got over 1,000 signatures on change.org. I mean, we need this fence. Maybe, I mean, not where it's at. It would really have to move it and pay to do all that, but I mean, it's a necessity. And we just bought this home. This is our first home. This is our home forever, and he's not going to grow out of his disabilities. He's not going to get better. He's not, none of that. So, we need this fence.
Steve, can I say something? I'm Jackie
Sure.
Roman.
Yep.
I'm the bus driver for their older son.
Yep.
It is acceptable to get an emergency vehicle in there. If I can pull a 90-foot bus in there, I do not see why a fire truck or ambulance cannot get in that driveway
Okay.
safely. I mean, I pull it in 5 days a week when I can.
Yeah, understand.
I'm just letting you know. Thank you.
Okay. Brandy, and I don't know if you can, I've got a couple questions, if you don't mind. The first thing that stood out to me when I saw this picture is this is a split rail fence. I don't understand how
We don't got the pickets on it because we had to stop
So
them.
you weren't done
No, we had to stop them.
Okay.
All right.
What's Cole's point is said that there was a city ordinance. I
I told him, say, let's
just stop,
Okay,
because
so-
we
so
didn't
you
know, but
stopped
it's gonna be
construction.
completely
Understand.
enclosed with pickets.
Okay, and how tall is the proposed picket?
It's four,
Just
four
how
and a
how much
half.
above that?
After the pickets are on, it'll be 4.5 feet tall.
Okay, and then you're planning on a gate?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any other questions? All right. Thank you. Anybody else that would like to speak for or against?
I think
Please come free.
the fence would probably be
Can you
open.
come up to the mic just so we have it on record?
I think the only time the fence would be opened is at nighttime when they're all in the house and in bed. But other than, I'm sure the parents they're gonna keep it closed for the safety of him not getting out on the road.
Understand?
Is your plan to lock it?
Yes. It'll have a latch on it.
Yeah, it'll just have a latch and all. It'll never be a lock, because he's not gonna be able to get that lock.
Correct, you can't reach
So,
it.
yeah, so really the only time, like she's saying, the only time we'll have it open.
Is she'll
is
leave for work
unless
early in the morning and she'll leave it open for me to get my bus in. Cause I go take care of their older son because with his disability, he has to work a different shift than she does. So the bus driver, go over and take care of the older one and get him to and ready for school. And then if I have to, I'll get out of my bus every morning and lock the gate back.
Well, my concern is more of you're talking about safety or firefighters and things being able to get into a gate that's locked.
It won't.
Yeah, it'll just be a latch.
Okay.
And the only time it'll ever be closed, if you'll see him outside playing in the yard, it'll be closed. Other than that, there's no reason for the gate to be closed unless he's outside.
Okay.
I mean, if I have to open and close it, or she has to open it and I'll close it when I get ready to leave
Yeah,
every
all
morning.
right, that's fine. Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else? But not seeing anyone, we'll close the public hearing and reopen Board of Zoning Appeals for discussion. What are you guys thinking?
This was tough. It's a compelling story, and I mean,
I'm not faking it. This is our
oh, no,
life.
I understand. I mean,
It's every day for us.
the thing that comes to mind, unfortunately, at first, is the fact that we do have this particular ordinance. And taking into consideration other requests of reasons why others have also wanted the same variance. And, you know, what our ordinance allows us to actually approve is the issue, because of the actual hardship itself not being something that's physical with the property or something with its uniqueness. That's what's hard about this, is by the ordinance, we would not be able to approve this, although we completely understand what you're saying, but the ordinance doesn't make room currently for that particular special reasoning. Am I correct on that? Because it would create a situation that we are granting something for a special reason, and I don't know where in the past others have been denied such, or would in the future, where it creates a problem with the ordinance. And I mean, my heart's beating saying that because of your story. I understand, I read your letter too. You know, I took a lot of time thinking about this, but the issue is just what our ordinance says and what we're allowed to do, you know, based on the actual facts of, you know, the layout. And the fact that the fence can come back some, and there's still, I know it's cutting your yard in less than half. And I read that, I realize that too. I mean, that's my comments. Anybody else? This is a tough one, because I understand your story, and I'm sorry about the situation that you're in this far.
Anybody? Any other comment?
Is there a process that when they bought that house that they would have been informed of an ordinance?
No, I mean,
It's just on our website.
Yeah, it's in city limits, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
But no one gives you any of that stuff. They don't tell you.
Just too late.
They don't tell you.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. If we got no other comments, I'll entertain a motion, or I can make one.
If we did have to move it, what is it?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I was just wondering
Let me, real quick, I'm gonna close the Board of Zoning Appeals, reopen a public hearing, so you can speak officially.
I was just wondering, like, if we did have to, like, is it 35 foot from the house?
It's from the property line, and I think what Mitch is saying is that fence is on the property line today. So it would essentially be 35 feet back from there. I don't know, do you have this other picture that we
I
did?
don't on this.
Okay, he's got a picture where he actually drew that out, and it's roughly 29 feet from the front of the house. This way is where the line, where it would have to go, which is probably about where those trees are. You're probably about right. It's probably right around those trees. Yeah, the dilemma that we're facing is obviously there's several factors that we can consider when granting a variance. And it's not about personal choice or what we want to do, it's about legalities. And we have to find a hardship or have a hardship that's identified. And, you know, if you weren't able to meet the 35 foot because of the positioning of your house, that would be a hardship. Unfortunately, your yard could accommodate the 35 feet. Unfortunately, I'm sure every police officer in the world's probably used this phrase, ignorance of the law doesn't really help, right? The fact that you didn't know, I know it stinks, but the fact you didn't know isn't a justification that we can use. That's the problem we're running into is I'm going to be honest, I've driven past your house. I've talked to several folks. I think I've talked to, I don't know if it was you. I don't remember. I spoke to someone. Maybe it was your husband. Yeah, so I mean, I have reviewed this for several weeks. And I've met with Jeff, I've met with Rick, Kevin, and I've looked for hardships, honestly. I don't normally go through that much trouble to find a hardship for someone, but I just can't find anything that legally justifies the approval. And my concern is that you've got a compelling case and a very good reason why you need it, but the next person next month could have the same exact or a similar case, and it may not be as aesthetically pleasing, or the fact that their neighbors may not like it. And then we get ourselves in a situation where we're being sued because we gave it to you and not them. And that's what I've got to protect the town of Smyrna from is the legality of it.
I understand.
So,
Yeah, I'd like to add, I mean, the ruling today is simply based on only that.
Right, I understand.
Only, that is the only reason, because we have to stay within actually the rules we're allowed to follow too. But you obviously have an extremely supportive friends, family, neighbors, everybody.
It takes a village to take care of him.
I mean,
and every single one of them.
I noticed when we were.
I
noticed when he was in the lobby.
I mean, that is wonderful support.
Running circles.
Yeah. So basically, just from where it's at now, 35 foot.
I think that's pretty close to
When
what
the
we're saying.
application is submitted, then they need to mark where they want it at, and someone will go out there and verify the spot just to help you out.
Okay, so I just call you guys, or
Yeah, you can call Public Works and submit a fence application, go through that whole process.
I'll do it.
All right, we're going to close the public hearing, go back to the Board of Zoning Appeals. We haven't actually ruled on anything yet, so we still need a motion. If anybody wants to make a motion, or I can, either way. Good? All right. I make a motion that we deny based on no particular hardship being identified.
I second that.
We have a second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the denial? Aye. And any opposed? No, none. So the motion is denied. Again, we're very sorry. We would like to be able to accommodate. There's just not a legal reason to do so. So thank you.
I say this to you, it may end up being a benefit to have him further away from the road.
Yeah,
It may.
it'll work out. It
Yeah.
always
Yep.
does, so. I
All right.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and thank you for all the support you guys given this family. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a setback, special exceptions. We have Paul Parrish, 1103 Odom Court.
This is a special exception request to allow an in-home hair salon business within the medium-density residential district at 1103 Odom Court. The property is currently zoned R3 medium-density residential and is approximately 0.23 acres in size. Applicant stated the business operations would be from Tuesday through Saturday, roughly 20 to 30 hours per week. Maximum number of clients during the day would be about 5 to 6, and that would be on Saturdays when he expects most clients to be coming. The applicant schedules the clients as well for business and makes his best attempt to only schedule one person at a time. But if the chance that there are more than one person at a time, if y'all require it, off-street parking, the driveway provides ample space for that to be met. A conditional use permit special exception shall be provided. The board finds that it A, is so designed, located, proposed to be operated so that the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected. Staff finds that the hair salon should not have any of the above effects. B, will not adversely affect other property in the area in which it is located. Staff finds that the proposed use should not adversely affect other properties in the area. C is within provisions of special exceptions. In-home occupations are considered special exceptions within the municipal zoning ordinance. And D conforms to all applicable provisions of the ordinance for the district in which it is to be located, as well as provisions cited in section 7.060 and 7.061, and is necessary for public convenience in the location plan. Staff finds that the site may be able to conform to all the applicable provisions of the zoning ordinance. Criteria for review. Prior to the issuance of a special exception, the board shall make written findings certifying compliance with the specific rules governing individual special exceptions, and that satisfactory provisions and arrangements have been made concerning all the following where applicable. 1, ingress and egress to the property. The site will utilize the existing access off of Odom Court. Off-street parking. Staff finds there's enough room for off-street parking with the existing driveway. Refuse and service areas. The refuse collection manner will proceed in the same as it is. Utilities with reference to the location of availability and compatibility. This location has all the necessary utilities on site. Number 5 is not applicable in this case. 6, signs if any and proposed exterior lighting with reference to glare, traffic, safety, economic effect, and compatibility and harmony with the properties in the district. Staff finds proposed business will fit the compatibility with the properties in the same district and the above effects. 7, required yard and other open space. Staff finds that there is adequate space on the slot to support this business, as everything will be conducted inside an enclosed carport. 8, general compatibility with the adjacent properties and other property in the district. Staff finds that this use may be compatible with adjacent properties. Number 9 is not applicable in this case, and staff would recommend approval of this request. Back when we put the sign out last week, there was a carport currently existing, but it appears they're undergoing construction again to start enclosing a new carport. And this is pictures from today.
Right. At this time, I'll close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open a public hearing for anyone that'd like to speak for or against this request. Please come forward, state your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Jim Brower. I'm a general contractor that's working with Paul and a personal friend of mine. I live at 727 Majesty Drive in Murfreesboro. The reason why we had to do that because I talked to Gary Reinhardt about the inspector on that. The entry door from side the house the roof line was too short. So we had to tear the roof completely off, and what we're doing is we're going to raise it up. So we're just going to build the walls. We've already passed the footer inspection already, and we already had that and laying the block.
Okay.
And then we're just going to raise it up. It's now no bigger than what it was. We've already had that cleared and okayed by Gary. Paul is not doing no advertising. What it is, he wants to semi-retire, move his business from Murfreesboro into Smyrna. And he mentioned that he's not taking any more clients. He's not taking people off the street. There's no advertising whatsoever going with this place. So he was hoping that the board would approve him on this so he can kind of cut hair at his place without having to pay the rent that he's paying right now. So he's really, neighbors that he's have already said that it's okay. He shouldn't have any more than 1 or 2 cars at a time at his residence, which, like he says, shouldn't be a obstacle for anybody.
Okay. All right, any questions? No? All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to speak for or against this request? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, reopen Board of Zoning Appeals for discussion. One thing I want to make sure we're clear is what we're considering at this point is the in-home business. The carport is a completely separate issue, and at this point, I don't believe it is an issue.
Correct.
It sounds like they're following the guidelines of Mr. Reinhardt. That's not part of this discussion. So just the fact, I will say, we have quite a few places around town where this is happening. This is a normal use of home business. A lot of folks do this. One couple come to mind right off the bat that I could think of where there's people cutting hair out of their homes. So this isn't really that abnormal of a request. It looks like the lot can handle the cars that he's expecting. I appreciate the fact that they would be willing to tear down the carport to make the adjustments that they need to make for the entryway. At this point, I don't see an issue with the approval, but you guys see anything different?
I didn't see that we found any reason.
Certainly, if he has no desire to grow the business.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I was actually thinking maybe getting a business card. Need a new barber.
Well, I'd like to put out a motion to approve the request.
All right, we have a motion to approve. We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, sir.
Tell Paul good luck with the business.
Right, next item on the agenda, we have 411 Lake Farm Road, a special exception request.
Yeah, this is 2 requests in 1 report. We have 1 special exception and a zoning variance. The special exception is to allow a religious facility within the residential district. And the second request is a zoning variance to exceed the maximum detached accessory structure square footage for a lot of this size. The applicant's requesting special exception to construct a church at 411 Lake Farm Road. Property is currently zoned R1 and is just over an acre in size. Proposed church will be located behind the principal structure, and there's an existing building that will be removed from the property to make room for this development. Proposed church is 30 by 60, yielding total detached accessory square footage of 1,800 square feet. Maximum detached accessory use square footage for a lot of this size is 1,200 square feet, thus requiring a 600-foot variance they are requesting for also. General requirements: a conditional use permit shall be provided that the board finds that it A, is so designed, located, and proposed to be operated so that the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected. Staff finds the proposed use of a church may negatively affect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. B, will not adversely affect other property in the area in which it is located. Staff finds the proposed use may adversely affect other properties in the surrounding area due to times of operation as a result of noise or increased traffic in the area. C, is within provisions of special exceptions. Religious facilities are listed as a special exception in the R1 district. D, conforms to all applicable provisions of this ordinance for the district in which it is to be located, as well as provisions cited in section 7.060 and 7.061, and is necessary for public convenience and location planned. Staff finds that this site may be able to conform to all provisions of the municipal zoning ordinance. C, special conditions. No such facility shall be permitted on a zone lot unless it contains twice the lot area requirements of that district which is located in. Staff finds this lot has over double the minimum requirement for R1 zone lot, so it meets that requirement. B, the location, size, and design of such facility shall be situated so that the proposed facility shall be compatible with the development in the area surrounding, thus reducing the impact upon such area. Staff finds the proposed use of a religious facility in this area does not seem fitting as there are no other non-residential uses in this subdivision. C, such facility shall be located only on arterial or collector streets. Lake Farm Road is listed as a collector street on the major thoroughfare plan, so it does meet this requirement. D, all bulk regulations of the district shall be met. E, off-street parking requirements shall be met as well. Plans submitted by the applicant show a parking lot will be installed next to the proposed religious facility and will be assessed at the site plan level if it makes it that far. D, criteria for review. Prior to the issuance of a special exception, the board shall make written findings certifying compliance with the specific rules governing individual special exceptions and that satisfactory provisions and arrangements have been made concerning the following where applicable. 1, ingress and egress to the property. Access to the site will utilize the existing driveway off Lake Farm Road. The plans that were submitted by the applicant show a wider driveway than currently exists, which I will address at the next comment. Off-street parking and loading area were required with particular attention to the items in item 1 above and the economic, noise, vibrations, glare, or odor effects of the special exception on or by adjoining properties and properties generally in or near the district. The plans submitted by the applicant show a driveway leading back to the proposed structure accompanied by 24 parking spaces. Parking will also need to be on a hard surface, and currently there is gravel that is on site. The applicant did state that there will be a parking area on asphalt that is paved, which will meet code at that point. Refuse and service areas with particular reference to items 1 and 2 above. Refuse collection will proceed in the same manner currently. We'll assess at the site plan level if a dumpster is required. 4, utilities with reference to location, availability, and compatibility. Location has gas and water available, but is utilized by a septic tank. A separate septic tank may or may not be required for this proposed use. The Groundwater Protection Services Division of TDEC will need to be contacted regarding this issue to assess whether a second septic tank will be required or not, and if the land is suitable for the additional use. 5, screening and buffering with reference to type, dimension, and character. Staff would recommend a landscape buffer to be planted to screen the parking lot and church from neighboring properties. The landscape buffer may be comprised of evergreens and shrubs. 6, signs, if any, and proposed exterior lighting with reference to glare, traffic, safety, and economic effect and compatibility with and harmony with properties in the district. Staff finds the proposed church would increase traffic through the residential subdivision during hours of operation. 7, required yard and other open space. Staff finds this yard has necessary yard and open space to allow for the church in the rear yard. 8, general compatibility with adjacent properties and other property in the district. Staff finds that the use may not be compatible with adjacent properties as there are no other non-residential uses present in this subdivision. 9 is not applicable in this case. E is for their second request as far as the detached accessory square footage variance is concerned. First, for particular physical surroundings, shape, topographic condition of the specific property involved that would result in a particular hardship upon the owner as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict application of the ordinance were carried out. Staff finds there's no particular hardship present for this case, as the building could be reduced to the 1,200 square foot maximum size and still meet the requirement of the zoning ordinance. 2, the conditions upon which the petition for a variance is based would not be applicable generally to other property within the same district. Staff finds there are no unique conditions regarding this property. 3, the variance will not authorize activities in a zone district other than those permitted by the ordinance. Customary accessory buildings or structures are allowed by right in this district, but are not to exceed 1,200 square foot for lots greater than 1 acre in size. Financial returns shall not be considered as a basis for granting the variance. The property owner has not identified financial returns as a reason for requesting this. 5, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property. The alleged difficulty or hardship was created by the applicant. 6, that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this ordinance to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. Staff finds the variance requested will provide the applicant with special privileges denied by the ordinance to other lands, structures, or buildings within the R1 district. 7, the variance is the minimum that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Staff finds that the requested building size of 1,800 square foot may be reduced and still meet or be under the maximum 1,200 square foot requirement set by the zoning ordinance. 8, the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property or improvements in the area in which the property is located. Staff finds that the variance may be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property improvements in the area. 9, the proposed variance will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property, substantially increase the congestion in the public streets, increase the danger of fire, endanger the public safety, or substantially diminish or impair property values within the area. Staff finds the variance could have an effect on traffic congestion within the area during peak hours of operation. Number 10 is not applicable in this case. Staff recommendation. Staff would recommend denial of both of these requests as a religious facility does not appear to be conducive for the area and the facility size could be reduced and still meet the zoning ordinance requirements. If approved, staff would recommend a landscape buffer be planted to screen the parking area and religious facility from neighboring properties. In addition, a letter provided from TDEC regarding their recommendation of whether the existing septic tank could accommodate the additional use of a religious facility or if a second tank would be required. Additionally, fire department is concerned about this as far as attending to an emergency at this residence due to the blind curve that exists at this property right before it. And a fire truck would need to be pulling into the property to fight any fire that happened at that building or any car fire that happened in the back. The additional table I gave you before the meeting details accidents that have happened at that blind curve. I have a picture in this slideshow as well as showing that. So over the 14th month period, 6 accidents have happened within this general vicinity around that corner. as well as 4 accidents that occurred within a 3-month period in early 2018. So that was in reference to the dangers to traffic and increased traffic within the area. This is the existing property. Back here you can see the building that they're proposing to demolish. So here's just a closer picture of it, as well as their other open space. I didn't get a picture further looking back, but the property does extend back quite a ways. And then here's just an additional picture showing that blind curve I was talking about and all the accidents that have happened in this area as it stands. And then here you can also see how deep the yard goes and where the existing structure is located. And that is it.
All right, thank you. This time I'll close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open a public hearing for anyone who would like to speak for or against this request. Please state your name and address, please.
Hi, Savannah Stanifer. Address is 411 Lake Farm Drive. Sorry, Lake Farm Road. And we're going to be construct a religious church there, 30 by 60, 1,800 square foot. And we're going to, it's just going to be like 20 to 40 members of the church members. And we're going to do whatever the requirements we'll need, like as in asphalt for the hard surface, for parkings or driveway, landscape, whatever meets requirements by codes, we will do it. We will hire licensed architectural engineer and general contractor to do the, meets all the requirements that we need to move forward with. So we're just requesting the special sessions and virus setback for this church. We'll be demo the existing building in the back of the home, existing home. We're gonna demo that out, remove it, and we're gonna construct 30 by 60, one level, you know, family church. And if we have to, we could go on both sides of the house, build a driveway, in one way, out one way, for the safety. I mean, like Mitch say, we may have issues with fire marshals or whatever. We have to see if we can construct it by the safety requirements and everything. And if we have to reduce the size a little bit, I mean, we can. We just really want to push it at 1,800 square foot. So, let's see, yeah, we're gonna do asphalt, 4-inch, maybe 5-inch asphalt paving throughout the area for parkings and driveway, landscape, whatever his requirement is. And all the necessary permits and whatever we need to move forward.
Okay. Can I ask a couple questions? What's the current house used for? Does someone live in that? What is that house today?
The owner is Kylan and Paulan. They're brothers that live there, but they're not active all the time. But they are one of our church members that will be going to church, but because he have another location of his home, so he come there occasionally, you know, once a week, twice a week, and this is the only option there was for our church because of the low financial we have to can't afford the land to build a church on, you know, so we already got the house and the land as one of the church members, and we were asking to see if we could just take that existing building out and build just like a family church.
Understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Where are the people are you currently meeting as a church? Somewhere?
Yes, we are leasing a location here in Laverne, Smyrna area, but then we can't no longer have contract. We got to get our own place to build the church.
And the location that you're wanting to build is going to, the size that you're aiming for is going to meet all of your needs as a church?
Yes, yes. It's going to be about 20 to 40 people, including kids. You know, some are expecting and stuff. And so, yeah, we're going to have about that much members.
And do you expect growth?
Not really, because we calculate by the families of how many we have. And, you know, I don't expect, if we do have growth, we have to find a way to get a bigger church somehow later in the
course.
future. In the long run, we got to think about that.
Okay. Any other questions? No? All right, thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak for or against, please come forward. Good evening. Please state your name and address, please.
I'm Judy Jacobs. I live at 413 Lake Farm Road, the property adjacent to that property. Our property lines are 125 feet across, 350 feet back, and 125 feet across at the back. A building of that size is going to cause great problems with our property values. If they grow and decide to move, who's going to want to buy that? Nobody else but a church or a business. It would cause a detriment to us, and the noise level would be atrocious in our backyards on Sunday morning. They hold church there now on Saturday nights and sometimes Sunday mornings. They've not in the last couple of weeks, but when they bought that home, they approached us and told us they were using that property only as a church office and that they would be looking for property to build on. No one occupies that home during the week. They've not ever occupied that home during the week. If anything goes wrong there, we're kind enough to call them and let them know that something is wrong. And I'd like to have a neighbor that is a true neighbor and not one that's going to be there just on the weekends and cause, it would really be a detriment to our property value. And I would appreciate a no vote.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think I saw someone else. Yep. If you would please step forward and state your name and address, please.
My name is Gary Waldbaum at 113 Benefield Drive in that same subdivision. I have been in that subdivision for 37 years. My neighbor on my left has been there 35, and the one on the other side of me, which would be the south side, has been there about 39. So we're familiar with it and familiar with the development and that sort of thing. We have some concerns. A couple of folks were going to be here, one's at a funeral, another one's working, but there were a number of calls were also given that I think Mitch picked up in opposition. A couple of things that trouble me about it. First of all, there is, I believe your notes pointed out, there's no other operation of any kind in that neighborhood except residential. The neighborhood also had a codicil and had restrictive covenants on it for 25 years, but it had a 25-year limit. But the reason for the restrictive covenant still, in my opinion, is still in existence. It's a residence. It's a residential neighborhood. So I feel that we don't want to change that. There's a couple of things that kind of are concerns of mine regarding the size of the property. The property is big enough that they could come back later, once it's designated a church, and ask for an extension. You ask about the size of the church. Churches usually don't. If they're doing well, they're going to grow, and they're going to need a larger facility. And that lot, in terms of its just square footage, it could accommodate that. I don't want to see something grow and get even bigger. Even though I'm a church guy myself, I'm in favor of churches, just not in that neighborhood. Regarding the safety on that curve right there, just up one lot, in fact, I spoke to the person to the west of the lot today, and they asked me to represent them as well. But on that curve right there, the person who lives on that curve has a real nice fence and it meets codes and everything else. He's rebuilt that fence 3 times because of the traffic accidents there. In terms of sight, that is near the peak of a hill, but you can't see over it from their driveway. You can't see over that hill and see, so there's a safety concern there as well. The road is designated as a feeder street, but it is narrow and has 0 shoulder, none, and is difficult from that point of view. There are residences on 3 sides, and If you were to approve this, I would like to see the stipulation that we have a strong greenway all the way around it. I've talked to the residents. We have one here. I've spoken to the one to the west. And everyone is pretty well concerned about the impact it will have on our residents. That subdivision has been there for 40 years. So a strong break of some kind with the landscaping, that kind of thing, if you decide to approve it, we really appreciate that. But basically, the opportunity for further development, what they're going to do with that house in the front of the building that's already there, the front of the property that is being used occasionally as a church, as this lady has pointed out. I wasn't aware of that, but it is empty right at the moment. And it just doesn't, it seems like it's out of balance and out of place with our residents, and I would appreciate a no vote.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, anyone else that would like to speak for or against? Not seeing anyone, we'll close the public hearing and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals. I do have one question, Mitch or Mr. Peach. Since this is two separate kind of requests, do we need to handle them separately, or can we handle them as one, or how do we need to handle that?
I would separate them, although depending on what your answer is on number one, there may not be a use for number two.
Yeah.
However, I would address them separately.
Okay.
For purposes of any type of
all right.
challenge.
Hey, Steve, I'd like to make note, I've received about 14 or 15 calls from neighbors about this as well. So.
Okay. All opposed?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I guess let's, they're in order. Let's just go with number one. Let's start there. So the first request is actually the approval of having a church on this piece of property. It's not the building size. It's the church in general. There's a couple of concerns that have been documented by the staff. I think this list of 6 accidents in a 14-month period is significant. It's interesting that I was looking at the addresses. I was thinking, maybe these are down the street, but they're not. 413, 412, 408, those are all within, they're probably neighbors. So if you look at that drawing, you can see 413 is right next door, 410 is right across the street, 412 is across the street, 408 is one house down on the left. So this curve is clearly getting the brunt of the traffic accidents in this area. This is only 14 months. We didn't go back longer. So that's clearly a concern. I did do some research on the fire, and one of the concerns, and not being on the council, you guys might not have heard this, but we recently had a request on Enon Springs Road for a piece of property that wanted to do almost the exact same thing. It wasn't for a church, but it was for a second building behind a primary residence. So they wanted to build 2 houses on one lot. There was essentially no fire access from the back of the lot, very similar to this. And the concern that the council had, and that the fire chief had and expressed in that council meeting, was that if a car is parked beside the front house, there's no way to get to the back house in the event of a fire. So although you could potentially build a wraparound driveway, if you've got 25 or 30 people there for church, you could have cars on either side of that house blocking entrance into that property. So there's some serious concerns with fire, not just the fact they cannot fight it from the road. They have to get into the property, even if the driveway is wide enough. There's really not any way to ensure that property stays open all the way to the back, even during church or any other time, especially during church when there are people in the building. I guess the other thing that, one of the things that we always consider in council decisions about zoning is just the fit of this product in the area. I'm not sure that a commercial type facility, and I get it, it's a church, it may not be for profit, but it is still a commercial facility, doesn't make sense in an R1 district. That's my concern. I'm thinking about myself, and I would not want any kind of business building on the house lot right next to me, behind me, in my neighborhood. And I just don't think it's a good fit for the neighborhood. Those are my concerns, in my opinion, on having the church there is all. I'm As a gentleman in the back mentioned, I'm all for churches. I attend church multiple times a week. I'm definitely not trying to stifle anybody's. I want people to go to church, but in this case, it just doesn't fit. That's my opinion. Now, you guys, any comments?
I actually agree with all the comments, and what I want to say as far as my thoughts on this. I've known that community for decades. One of my concerns too is making a special exception is upon the first one, there may be more that follow, and once we have made one, where do we go with the following? And these lots are very large, and they could all actually end up probably trying to petition for some type of large structure. So if we start something that was never intended in this R1 district, I don't know where the stop is. And out of respect for those property owners that have lived there and taken care of their property all this time, I want to honor where they're at also. We are certainly for a family church. This is not about that particular structure. It's about having anything other than R1, quiet, peaceful neighborhood, and starting something that has things like parking spaces in the back. You have the concern with emergency vehicles. There are so many concerns here that I feel like it's a bit overwhelming to be able to approve this. And I don't know where that goes next. If we did, how many more would want to pop up? And I believe there's probably things we can do to discuss a place possibly for meeting. There's probably other routes to go where a family church could meet, and maybe in our community. That could be another discussion for whoever does that.
Yep. I definitely think that the liabilities and things that are going to come down the road may be unforeseen. And I think the decision was, or the reasoning was, lack of finances. And believe me, there are definitely some more routes to go that are probably more financially a better decision, and also long-term liability. And so I could even personally speak into that if we go down that direction.
Yeah, I was actually thinking as you were talking, I should have probably started with you and said, as a pastor, what can you add here?
Yeah, certainly. I would love to give advice outside on some directions to go that could help you be able to meet and worship together. That, again, I think this down the road is going to hurt you more than help you. And I'd love to give you some other options.
Yeah, and this is about that structure and the use being conducive to that neighborhood. I think for that reason, that's why we're having a hard time seeing if that would be allowable.
Okay. Scott, any comments? Any others?
I think that pretty much summed it up.
All right. In that case, I'll entertain a motion for the approval or denial of a church on this property.
I make a motion to deny.
And if you'll place in your denial, and you can reference to what the chairman stated as the reasons, but I just need to get the reasons for denial, whether that was, you mentioned all the above: noise, traffic, public safety concerns, fire apparatus concerns.
So you can restate your, just citing staff concerns and the concerns that have been brought forward.
Okay. I make a motion to deny because of staff concerns and everything that was brought forward to us.
Okay, good.
Yeah, to include, I guess to include what the chairman stated.
Okay. So just say that.
Just include what the chairman stated.
All right, just so it's on record. All right. So we have a motion to deny based on staff comments and the concerns with traffic, safety, fire, noise, et cetera. Do I have a second? Second. And I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. The motion is denied. Obviously, the second item is the size of the building. Whether it was a church or not, I think we can still consider the size.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. My time on the BZA, I don't think I've ever approved an exception to this rule. These are here for a reason, and there is no hardship that's been listed. There's no reason to justify the size of an oversized building. Honestly, I wouldn't even like a 1,200 square foot building there, but that is allowed, so to speak. So I'll make a motion that we deny the size of the additional size variance, the 600 square foot size of variance as well.
I'll second that.
All right, motion and seconded. All those in favor of denying the size of the building? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? No, both requests are denied. Thank you, ma'am. The next item on our agenda is another special exception request for Paulo Vasquez on Pony Drive.
The applicant is requesting a special exception to allow a detached accessory apartment at 415 Pony Drive. Property is currently zoned R1, low-density residential, and is approximately 0.46 acres in size. The accessory apartment is already built and is being used as an accessory apartment as well. The existing unit is 400 square feet in size roughly. The applicant is using the accessory apartment for his retired mother and 2 children when they stay with him. And this building was originally came into codes as being permitted for a storage building, but is being used as an accessory apartment rather than a storage facility. Let's see. General requirements: a conditional use permit shall be provided. The board finds that it A, is so designed, located, and proposed to be operated so that the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected. Staff finds the proposed use of a detached accessory apartment should not negatively affect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. B, will not adversely affect other property in the area. Staff finds the proposed use should not adversely affect other property. C, is within provisions of special exception. The zoning ordinance lists accessory apartment as a special exception within the R1 district. And D, is able to conform to all applicable provisions of this ordinance for the district in which it is to be located, as well as the provisions cited in section 7.060 and 7.061, and is necessary for public convenience and location planned. Staff finds the site may be able to conform to all the applicable provisions as listed above. C, criteria for review: ingress and egress to the property and proposed structure thereon with particular reference to automotive and pedestrian safety. Access to the site will utilize the existing driveway off of Pony Drive. Off-street parking: staff finds the lot provides sufficient space for parking with the garage and driveway present. 3, refuse and service areas with particular reference to items 1 and 2 above. Refuse collection will proceed in the same manner as it is currently. 4, utilities with reference to location availability and compatibility. Location has availability to gas and water, but similar to the last request, they are utilizing a septic tank. Same with the Groundwater Protection Services Division of TDEC will need to be contacted to make sure the existing tank will support this detached accessory apartment in addition to what is currently existing for the principal structure. 5 is not applicable. 6, signs of any and proposed exterior lighting with reference to glare, traffic, safety, economic effect, and compatibility and harmony with properties in the district. Staff finds the proposed accessory apartment will fit the compatibility with properties in the same district with reference to the above effects. 7, required yard and open space. Staff finds this yard has necessary yard and open space to allow for a detached accessory apartment in addition to the detached shed and principal structure as it is already present and being used. 8, general compatibility with adjacent properties. Staff finds that the use may not be compatible with adjacent properties due to other lots in the area not having detached accessory apartments. 9, the 9 is not applicable in this case, and staff would recommend putting a conditional approval on this request that the applicant provides staff a letter of approval from Groundwater Protection ensuring the existing septic tank can support this accessory apartment in addition to the principal structure. In addition, what comes with the accessory apartment as far as codes is required, the applicant is required to pay Rutherford County Development Tax fee of $1,500 as well as a Town of Smyrna impact fees of $1,824. There may be additional fees required by codes, but those will be assessed at that point. But it's with the understanding that this is permitted rightly as a accessory apartment, not a storage shed, with your approval if you so choose to.
Okay.
This is existing from the corner lot. This is the detached structure. There's a couple different views of it. Your existing principal structure, and then there's your other barn, and then that's obviously the that's the residence in question.
Okay. I was going to ask you about the storage building, but it doesn't really look like a storage building. Okay. All right. One question I had, you may have mentioned it and I missed it. With the additional storage building that's behind this and this exterior or detached building, do they still meet the square footage for the lot?
They're still fine. When they came through for codes, that was all checked for permitting as a storage area, and that's the same square footage, so it's fine.
Okay, perfect. All right, at this time, I'll close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open a public hearing for anyone who would like to speak for or against this request. Please state your name and address.
Yeah, excuse me. My name is Pablo Vasquez. I live on 415 Pony Drive. So this building is not an apartment like you say it is. 18 months ago, I requested from day one to codes to have a accessory building with living space on top. So because I have my two kids that I share custody with my ex-wife, they come home every 2 weeks, stay home. This is not an apartment. This is a temporary, when my kids come to my house. My mom, my father passed away, so my mom stay home right now. This is like a guest house. From day one, everything, plumbing, framing, concrete slab, electrical, everything is passed to codes. So I just want the special exemptions because, as you can see, I put the driveway in there because the storage building on behind, I do landscaping to pay my bills on the weekends. So I have 2 cars, I have a trailer, and everything, I want to do everything that's right from day one to codes and everything. So 18 months later, they say it cannot be used as a living headquarters. I have my mom lives there 6-7 months out of the year. My kids come home every other weekend and stay home. I need extra space for them to stay. Okay. You can see my history of electrical, water from last year, from years before. Is not even higher, it's lower than it's ever been. It's only 3 people. I live with my wife and my daughter on the primary house. My mom lives there as a guest. She goes out with my brothers and sisters, come back. My kids stays there. I want to do whatever it takes to have this use as like I'm using it right now.
Okay.
The property value, if you go around the neighborhood, I have neighbors, I talk to all my neighbors around. The property value on this house is going up. I'm taking care of my house. You can see the landscaping, the trees, everything.
All right, thank you. Any questions? No? All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to speak for or against? Not seeing anyone, we will close the public hearing and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals for discussion. Mitch, one question pops in my head, and I'm just curious. If this was permitted for a storage facility, how did we get electrical service and plumbing and et cetera through codes?
Everything's passed through codes. I mean, I believe it was instructed to them that they could not use that as an accessory apartment. Everything passed as far as codes is concerned, though. I guess at that point it's up to them whether they use it as that purpose or not, and they're using it as an accessory apartment.
So our codes inspectors have inspected?
Everything's passed, yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, if you would like to speak, come back up. Let me close the Board of Zoning Appeals and reopen the public hearing, please.
One thing that I just do want to say, you guys keep saying it was approved by a storage building. It was permitted to be an accessory building with living space on the second floor. It was past inspections. Every inspection, I talked to the codes department many times during the construction, and I'd say I want to do the right thing. I don't have people living on this, you guys call apartment. It was permitted as an accessory building with living space on top. It was never permitted. It was permitted as an accessory building with living space.
Okay.
Not as a storage.
All right. Thank you. We'll close the public hearing, reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals. I don't know what to say to that.
So, I mean, I'll restate our recommendation. I mean, we're recommending approval of it, conditioning that has TDEC provide us with a letter saying it's okay. I mean, that's normally what we'll go through anyways.
Yes.
We don't have that from us provided to us, so we just request that to us, being it's already being used as an accessory apartment, and he just goes through the right procedure to get it up to code.
I understand.
As far as an accessory apartment is concerned, and pay all the applicable fees that go with it.
Okay. Any discussion, comments?
No, I mean, I did notice it did say the staff finds that the proposed accessory apartment use will fit the compatibility with properties, so
It's being used, it's a residential use, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing an issue. Let me go ahead and make a motion. I'm gonna motion that we approve this request, based on, the staff's recommendations, that letter of approval from the groundwater protection, ensuring the existing septic tank can support the addition of the structure. Sounds like it's already working there, but we just need to make sure that it's the right size. Motion is approval with the staff recommendations of a conditional approval.
I second that.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Oh, all right. Thank you, sir. The motion carries. You will need to get with Mitch and these guys for this conditional piece, but it is approved. All right?
I want to say one more thing.
Sure.
The septic tank is approved by the plumbing department.
Yeah, so then it shouldn't be a problem. If you get the letter just stating that, then you'll be fine.
I couldn't pour the concrete before they approved the septic.
Understand. So yeah, if you just provide that approval, then you're good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next item, we are moving into our temporary use permits. We'll go to, the first one is Cousin Maine Lobster, Craig Betts.
Yeah. This is a application that the Board of Zoning Appeals has seen before in previous years for Cousins Maine Lobster. They want a permit for 4 food trucks to be present at 1932 Almaville Road, where they currently lease or own space at that site. Just buzzing through a couple of the requirements. As far as the approval for the applicant to be set up at that site, it's allowed being they lease space at that area. Adequate parking is available there for them to set up. Staff doesn't believe traffic control, additional measures will be required for this request, as the lot is big enough to provide sufficient space for what they are requesting. Tents, if they're being used, they must be taken down every day and must be set up on a paved surface. The proposed site of the food trucks are within 500 feet of an operable fire hydrant. There are 2 days that they are requesting to be set up. Sunday, April 14th, 2019, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And they just informed me before the meeting, Sunday, September 22nd as well, so they'll have 2 days within this calendar year.
September 22nd, okay.
Yep. And then adequate provisions shall be made for restroom facilities. The applicant owns space at the site and has addressed this issue. They allow for anyone to use restroom facilities within their space. Trash cans will be provided by the applicant and dumped into an on-site dumpster following the closing of the event. No additional standards will be required as far as compatibility to adjoining properties, being it's a C2 zone, and not applicable for K in this instance, and staff would recommend approval of their request.
All right.
Picture of the site. So I believe they want to be set up somewhere in this general vicinity.
Okay. I think they've set up there in the past,
Yeah,
so
correct.
right there,
Yep.
kind of in that area. Okay. All right, thanks, sir. At this time, I will close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open a public hearing for anyone who would like to speak for or against this request. Please state your name and address.
Excuse me, Craig Betts, 7030 Grindstone Way, Murfreesboro. I'm the owner of Cousins Maine Lobster. This will be our 3rd anniversary event on on April 14th. That's what we're planning. We've done events there the last 2 years that are similar, bringing in some other trucks. And,
Okay.
Having a good event. It's been very successful. We really haven't had any issues or problems in the past, and don't expect any.
Do you know what other trucks are going to be there? Just,
Yeah, we
just
have.
to let the public know. Free advertisement.
Right. So we've also launched another food truck that's a totally different concept. It's called the Kama Soup Truck. It'll be there. We'll have Chivinata, which does very good high-end Mexican food and empanadas. Bradley's Ice Cream, and Music City Brisket, who's been there in the past. They do a fabulous job also.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Any questions for Mr. Betts? Nope. All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
We'll close the public hearing, reopen Board of Zoning Appeals for discussion and approval. For those of you that are new, pretty much item F kind of outlines the the crux of the zoning ordinance, or the ordinance here. The 14 days, 28 days, and a 12-month period. Obviously, he's only listed 2 days here, so he's well within those limits. I always look for ingress and egress of the property, essentially to make sure that we don't need additional police directing traffic, et cetera. Make sure there's sufficient parking, restroom, and trash receptacles. Since they already own or rent or lease a building there, they have restrooms in their restaurant, and they have some sort of refuse already because they have a restaurant there. So all of the real criteria has been met. That's the kind of things that we generally look for these food trucks, or for any kind of, temporary sales permit like this. So just let you know, looks like he's met all the requirements. If so, any motions?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Nope. Motion passes. Thanks, sir. Good luck. You'll probably be by there. I've had that brisket before, so.
Yeah, I'm glad we waited to the end before you described all that food.
We will be there.
Now I'm very hungry.
All right, the next item on our agenda is Parkway Wine and Spirits. Mr. Nettles requesting a food truck as well.
Similar to the last request, they've been through here past couple of years requesting something similar. They want several food trucks present at 611 President Place, property zone C2, General Commercial District, and approximately 1.32 acres in size in the public shopping district. The applicant has provided a letter of approval from the property owner stating they can sit up there during those times we're requesting. Adequate parking already exists at this location. We don't believe additional parking measures will be needed. Same as far as tents are concerned. If tents are put up, they would need to be on a hard surface, and they have not indicated any tents will be utilized. The trucks' locations are within 500 feet from an operable fire hydrant. As far as the dates are concerned, they've provided us with April 5th, 19th, May 3rd, 17th, and 31st, June 14th and 28th, July 12th, 25th, 26th, 27th, August 9th and 23rd, September 6th and 20th, October 4th, 18th, 31st, November 1st, 2nd, 15th, 27th, 29th, December 13th, 23rd, 24th, 27th, and 31st. And that is 28 days in the calendar year, which is what they're allowed to have for max. Restroom facilities, this has been addressed by the applicant. As owner states, customers are allowed to use the restroom facilities at the site. No permit violations are present at this property. Trash, food truck vendors will provide trash receptacles that will be deposited in the dumpster after each day is done. Staff will not recommend any additional standards to meet the compatibility of proposed location with adjoining properties. Letter K is not applicable in this case, and staff would recommend approval. And that is the site. I believe in the past they've had the trucks set up along, right along President Place, right along here. But other than that, that's all we got.
Okay. Yeah, this is right there, kind of in the Publix area. All right, at this time, we'll close the Board of Zoning Appeals and open a public hearing for anyone who would like to speak for or against this request. Please state your name and address.
I'm Jim Akers, 1906 Battleground Drive, Murfreesboro. I'm here on behalf of Lee Nettles to answer any questions that you all might have. This is something that obviously we've done in the past. We'd just like to continue it with your blessing.
Okay, great. I actually don't have any questions. Any of you?
I have no questions.
Yeah, we've reviewed this same request several years in a row. So, and Lee always does a good job with this. So we don't have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll close the public hearing and reopen the Board of Zoning Appeals for discussion. As I stated before, the 28 days are documented. There's not any more than 28. No, not 14 days in a row. Trash, refuse, restrooms, parking, ingress, egress are all covered. So I don't see an issue with this request. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve. Second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Phil or Scott?
Second. Yep. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. The motion is approved. Next item on our agenda, we have is staff comments and/or other. Mitch? Jeff, how about a shameless plug for your training?
Yes, besides the new folks that are scheduled for the initial board training, which basically just going over Robert's rules and open meeting, sunshine laws, those types of things. Next BZA meeting, we've been saying next for quite a while because we didn't have a quorum. But I will also put on a brief training, and trust me, I won't keep you here all night. We're talking 15 minutes, 15, 30 minutes. But just an introductory, just to Board of Zoning Appeals itself. So I will do that at your meeting right after the meeting next time. So
okay,
give you any updates and just kind of a brief history.
Yeah, and you should have all received an invitation to the Tuesday, either 3 p.m. or 5 p.m. this Tuesday. That'll be a good just kind of how boards flow and how they work, and then we'll get into Board of Zoning Appeals specific stuff with Jeff at the next meeting.
If y'all could just let staff know whenever you get, which day or which time works for you better, that's all. So we can take note of who's going to be there and what times.
Gotcha. Excellent. No other comments?
I think Tiffany's got
Yeah, she wants it.
All right. If that's the case, I'll take a motion for adjournment. Go.
I did want to mention, because
Don't make a motion.
We would. If you might make an announcement if you know the dates for John Black for the airport. He's wanted us to let everybody know that about the air show.
Air show. I do not know those dates. Right off the top of my head. No, it's June.
I think it's June 8th and 9th. I think.
So while we're looking up those dates,
I think it's the week of the 3rd, June the 3rd, 8th and 9th.
Okay. So while we're looking at that, the Blue Angels are returning for the first time in a couple of years. So the air show is going on as it has in the past. They're supposed to have a couple of really nice acts. I think the Snowbirds and a few other people are going to be here as well. So definitely plan your events around this and make sure that you come out and support this. It looks like it's June 8th and 9th. So I'm sure tickets, if they're not on sale, they will be soon. So be looking for you guys to come out. Anything else? All right, motion to adjourn. Anybody?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, and I'll second it. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Sorry to throw that on you.
No, it's all right. I just didn't know it was coming.